Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And I want to help you get a master's degree, a real-world master's degree in fitness business from the masters in the fitness business. And I know everybody that gets into this field has a passion for health and fitness. And I say that as I got a cold from my 2.5-year-old, building up my immune system as well as his. But anyway, everybody gets into this business because they have a passion for health and fitness, and they want to have an impact in people's lives. Well, my guest on this episode, Kristi Herold, is doing that in the biggest way of any other guest that I've had. She's got over 70,000 people up, moving, playing, getting healthy, getting social, finding a third place, and she shares how you can do that too, how she did it, how she built her team, and then use that team to build this company that impacts so many people's lives. So there's lots of takeaways in this episode, so I'm sure you will enjoy this conversation with Kristi Herold. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And on today's episode, we go up north to Toronto, where we have Kristi Herold, who runs Sport and Social Club. And I'm really excited to have her on. This woman is a go-getter, a hustler, hard worker, you name it, and a networker. She's since I've met her, she's introduced me to about 4 or 5 people who hopefully you will see on this podcast as well. But as I mentioned, Kristi, she runs Sport and Social Club, started in Toronto about 23 years ago. And her goal is to have 1 million people playing games. So she's been able to capture the market of the average Joe and Jane, the 9-to-5ers, who still want to move, still want to play sports and be social at the same time. And she started in Toronto, and now they have 8 affiliates. Is that correct?
We're in 11 different markets now.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Canada and the U.S. And so it's the largest sport and social club in North America. And like I said, she started doing this 23 years ago. She quit her job, went full in, fully committed, dove in with both feet. And so she is a 23-year overnight success for all of those who are just now hearing about her and seeing what she does. And I have to tell you that I'm really excited about this podcast because I'm really passionate about fitness and health and just to get people moving. I don't know how it is in Canada, but here stateside in the United States, we have a tremendous obesity problem. Probably, I think 2/3 of our population can be qualified as obese. And so to get people moving is a tremendous task and is more than half the battle. So the fact that you have so many people signing up and moving and hanging out with friends, becoming friends, networking, all those things, I think is just great. And I know it's got to have a tremendous impact on their health and fitness. So I'm really excited to have you on the show. Welcome to the show, Kristi.
Thanks, Jim. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me on.
Okay. And then, so let's dive into this a little bit because there's a lot that I want to get into. And in my research, when I was doing my research on you, I came up with all kinds of quotes. One was that you want to have your goal is to have 1 million people playing. Another one is that you guys are the big leagues of recreational sports. I like that because not everybody can play in the big leagues as much as they want to. So the fact that you guys call yourselves the big leagues of recreational sports, I think that's awesome. That's a great tagline. And then you also talked about your vision where you said that you want to be the best part of your members' day, which I think is awesome. And I want to dive into your core values because you said all of your decisions spring from there. So there's so much to unpack, but let's start from the beginning. So you were a ski racer. You want to take the listeners through that?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in a town north of Toronto, up in northern Ontario, and I was an elite ski racer. So spent, from the better part of age 12 through to about 18, traveling the world, all over Europe, North America, training for skiing, and basically was on a ski hill a lot more than I was in school. At around 18, I was injured and had to make the tough decision to, have another year of probably an average results kind of year, or finish my high school with my cohort and go off to university with my friends. And I decided at that time, although ski racing had truly been a huge passion, it was time to move on. And so I had to make that leap. It was a really challenging time in my life. And then from there, I ended up graduating with my friends and went off to university, went to Queen's University in Kingston and took a commerce degree there. And I had been an entrepreneurial kid. Growing up, I'd always run my own small businesses, lawn cutting businesses, that kind of thing, to make ends meet. And while I was in university, didn't really love academics. Never been much of an academic. I mean, I did well, but when I got to university, the marks dropped drastically. And I remember the Dean of Commerce calling me in and saying, you're on the ski team and you're on the rowing team. Clearly you can't handle doing both because it's affecting your marks. And I said, yeah, you're right. Next year I'll just do the ski team, and walked out of his office sort of chuckling, because what he didn't realize was I was actually running two businesses on the side. He had no idea about those. That's really what was taking my attention, was my different businesses I ran while I was in university. So anyway, from there, finished university and moved to the big smoke, to the big city of Toronto, where I didn't really know a lot of people. And that's when I decided I had a job at the time. My only job where I've ever worked for anyone was that one year. Realized quickly I'm not a great employee. I'm better off working for myself. And decided I was trying to connect and meet people, and looked into doing some soccer or something, because I was a pretty good athlete, but not, hardcore into anything, because ski racing had been my background. And I could only find competitive women's soccer leagues at the time. It was the early 90s or mid 90s. And I thought, I'm just not confident enough to go out and play in a competitive women's soccer league. I'd get smoked. So it was right around that time that I had heard about some clubs like ours in the United States. And I thought maybe that's something I could try in Toronto. And so I quit my job and spent hours and hours and hours on the phone calling people to tell them my idea and see if they liked the idea. Because don't forget, in 1996, internet wasn't really a thing yet. I think I got my first email address towards the end of 1996. So I spent a lot of time calling people and asking them, did they like the idea of, playing in an adult sports leagues, volleyball or basketball or flag football or soccer or ultimate. And if they liked the idea, would they fax me their contact list, their address book of names, and anyone who liked the idea would fax me over their address book, and then I'd call all those people and say, I got your name from so-and-so. So, if you talk about networking, yes, I definitely do. I'm not afraid to call and introduce myself. And then I'd say to those people, this is my idea. If you like the idea, would you share your contacts with me? And I had complete strangers literally faxing me over their address books of friends I should call who might like to play in the leagues when I eventually got it started. So that's sort of the guts of how it all began.
Oh, wow. So that's a tremendous undertaking. I mean, because we're talking old school, like paper records, like phone calls where there was a cord attached to the phone, all of that stuff. So just good old fashioned grunt work, boots on the ground, so to speak. We
actually still have the original registration letter, the very first newsletter I mailed out in 1996. We have it framed and hanging in our office here. And, it talks about, fill in the registration form, check off the boxes of the sport you want to play and mail it in to us with your check, and mail or fax it to us with your check. And then, and also at that time, I couldn't afford postage. I built a database of about 800 names, and I couldn't afford stamps for 800 people. So my boyfriend at the time, who later became my business partner and husband, and now my ex-husband, but still my business partner and good friend, he ended up riding his bike around delivering half of those newsletters because we couldn't afford the stamps for them. So
yeah, that sounds like that's another podcast. Your boyfriend, husband, business partner, ex-husband, business partner, best friend. That sounds quite the podcast. But You know, it's funny when I hear you talk, a lot of people that on the show who are business owners and entrepreneurs, they always start out usually in grade school or middle school with some kind of business or side hustle to make money, and they make terrible employees. And it's hard when, and I'm speaking for myself, it's hard when you have your own business to also have a successful relationship. I think that kind of comes with the territory. But right now you have 10 different sports that your members can participate in. How many did you start out with?
Oh, actually, I think we have a lot more than 10. We're probably closer to 20 or 30 now.
Oh, wow.
In the very first season, we had soccer, basketball, beach volleyball, flag football, and ultimate frisbee. Those were the initial 5 sports. And then since then, we've added, softball, curling, dodgeball, kickball, inner tube water polo. There's dragon boating and sailing and badminton and tennis, you name it. We have a ton of different sports now.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
As well as it also, when we began, what was interesting was the whole idea was to be co-ed and recreational, self-officiated. But since 1996, we now offer a lot more options. So there's something going on every night of the week. There's like basketball, you could probably play basketball every night of the week, and there's different levels, and you could play co-ed, self-officiated, or you might play in a men's league that's got officials or a women's league that's got officials, slightly more competitive, so there's kind of something for everybody.
Okay. That sounds phenomenal. So in the beginning, you were kind of a one-person show or a two-person show, you and your boyfriend. So walk us through that to where you finally got to the point where you got big enough where you said, okay, we're going to have to get some help here.
So yeah, my very first year, I was on my own for about a year, and then Raul started working with me. And we did start to need, we started off with a lot of volunteers. So people who would help us with the evening work. They would be out at the games, helping make sure games went off smoothly. And in exchange, they would get to play for free in our leagues. That was sort of the way I worked it, because I couldn't really afford to pay people back then. And then just, as we grew, as the team numbers grew, it was probably, I can't remember, probably our second or third year that I hired our first employee, and just sort of slowly started to add and build. And in 2016, before I really decided to really grow the company, we were probably around 15 employees. But then when I decided to really expand and start, spreading into a larger geographical area and stuff, we really built a great foundation for how to run the business and put a lot of foundations in place. And now we have a team of, I think we're around 45, 46 full-time employees, and about 250 to 300 part-time employees in our 11 different markets now.
Wow. That's impressive. Okay. So you talked about, you were about 10 years in, you were running this for about 10 years before you felt like you had it nailed down and could try to experiment with taking it to different markets. So can you talk to me about the process of perfecting that model so that you could duplicate it in other markets, and what that looked like? What was the driving force? I know you said everything comes from your core values. Maybe you can walk us through your core values and how that guides your growth and development.
Sure. Yeah. So our core values are chase the vision, which is the vision to get 1 million people playing. Treat everyone like your best friend. Deliver what you promise. Take pride in what you do. Get shit done. That's my favorite. I think that's it. Can't remember if I'm missing one there or not.
Okay.
So and find a better way. Find a better way is actually a fairly new one, which is another one of my favorites. Get shit done and find a better way. Always looking to do things better. So those are the core values. And yeah, we absolutely, every decision we make, whether we're hiring someone, firing someone, which doesn't happen very often, thankfully, but because we spend a lot of time hiring people slowly. Anyway, to be able to grow and expand into other cities, honestly, Jim, is a lot about systemization. Anytime we found ourselves repeating a step, it was like, okay, how can we systemize this so that I'm not having to do this over and over again? And how can we We didn't always we weren't always building the business with the intention to scale. For the first 20 years, we weren't intending to scale. It's only been since 2016 that we've now started to really, as we know, we're scaling into, hopefully it'll be 10 times our size 10 years from now. So as we've decided to do that, it's like a whole different level of systemization. And a lot of investment into proper tools and stuff to do that. But early days, it was just a matter of creating documents, frankly, that people you could spell out every job. Every job had a description for that. If someone got hit by a bus, you could go to the document and say, this is step by step how to do this. Thankfully, we've never had anyone hit by a bus, but we've always thought about that. Like, what happens if? And we wanted to always, when it's a small business, you need to have your backup plans in place. So a lot of systemization and documenting of how to do things.
Gotcha. And so a couple of questions. Where did the core values originate? Was that something that you wrote down kind of in a moment of inspiration? And then when you talk about systemization, I agree with you 100%. But where did you start, if you can remember that?
Okay, well, I'd say the systemization probably came first. From the early days, it was just again, anytime you found yourself repeating something, and as we grew, it was just teaching that to your employees. If you find yourself repeating a step, document it. And figure out a way so that you don't have to repeat it. If you can be a little more efficient. And we started creating what we call, in the old days it was the SSC Bible. Now it's called, what is that document called now? It's like a Google Doc. It's a live document. It's basically a book. I think we actually originally were going to call it SSC for Dummies. And it was the playbook of how to operate and do everything we do. The first question you asked was about the core values. Those core values were something that we developed initially in 2013, and I revised them last year, or maybe it was 2012 or 2013. It was not done by me alone. And core values. So I went to I did an entrepreneur master's program at MIT, and was inspired through this program to come up with core values, and I think that was 2013. And through that process, I learned a great way of doing it. Which is that core values should never be aspirational. They should be legitimately what you are. So what we did was we did this process called the Mission to Mars. And so I picked 5 people from my team, and I asked them to come sit in the boardroom. And I said, look, if we were to open up a sport and social club on Mars, who would be the 3 people from our existing team who you would send to Mars to open up a sport and social club? So each of the 5 people in the room wrote down 3 names. And I said to them very clearly, look, don't feel you need to write me down, because I'm not even all that invested in the business right now. That was like in 2013 when I was sort of on my mini sabbatical. So we wrote down, so now I have a list of 15 names. There was some overlap. Probably it was 7 or 8 unique names total. Then I asked everyone to write down the 3 characteristics of those individuals that they wrote down. What are the 3 characteristics that would make them great to open up a sport and social club on Mars? And so then we have this list of characteristics, and that's the list of characteristics that we then started to see. This is what makes what we do great. This is what makes our organization great. These are the characteristics that are really important to us. And then we were able to take those characteristics and sort of filter them down into 6 values that, it took a little reiteration and playing around, but we were able to kind of compile similar words and start to see what's really important to us. So that's how we came up with the values.
And I think that's such an important process. I think in order to give your business and your members the best, I think you have to be able to get the best out of yourself. In order to be able to get the best out of yourself, you have to know what is your best and what are your weaknesses and what do you need to work on? What do you need to improve? Things like that. And that, Tony Robbins talks about it. You should work twice as hard on yourself as you do your business. If you really want your business to be successful and all that it can be. So I think that's a really, really important process. And I think one that more people should take advantage of. I
think it's also really important that it was a team effort, because I don't think I don't think my team would have bought into the values if it was me saying, these are our values. You know, these truly were our team's values that we created together. And so the buy-in was there right from the start. And now when we do all our hiring, the values are written on the wall in multiple places. We don't just, this isn't just like blowing smoke, like, oh, your values. Like we actually have, yes, they're on the walls in 2 different places in our office, but we actually have a core value award that we give out monthly. Everybody in the office can nominate someone for the core value award. And I read through that. It takes some time, it takes about 10, 15 minutes once a month. And everyone, there's like 45 nominations that get read out, and people who get multiple nominations, you know, the person who kind of gets the most nominations in a month typically is the winner of the core value award. And it was so powerful and so positive that I was kind of like, we shouldn't just do this once a month. So we have on our Slack channel that we use for instant, you know, messaging within our team. Mm-hmm. We have a channel that's called SSG Shoutouts, SSG Sport and Social Group Shoutouts. And so it's kind of on a daily basis. There'll be 3, 4, 5 different shoutouts to sort of like, hey, this is a shout out to, you know, Maddie for the great video content and taking pride in what you do. Like and it's always sort of based mostly around the core values. People who are really shining in a core value. And then when we're doing reviews of staff, we're constantly looking at, you know, the 6 core values. How do they do on the core values? Are they a 6 out of 6? Are they a 5 out of 6? Or are they a 4 out of 6? If they're a 4 out of 6, we really ask ourselves, why are they on the team? Because you should be at least a 5 and working to be always a 6, right? Like those core values, we all have to be delivering what we promise. We all have to be chasing the vision. We all have to be looking to find a better way, getting shit done, taking pride in what we do, and treating everyone like our best friend. Like we all have to be doing that. And if we're not, maybe this isn't the right team for someone to be on.
Yeah, that's great because, like you said, when you get the team involved in developing those core values, the buy-in is already there because they're invested, because it's their core values as well. Yeah. And then it's easy to come up with those core values, stuff them in a book or, you know, some kind of meeting minutes, and then forget about them. And then they die, never come back. Yeah. Or you think about them, but then over time, it just slowly erodes until you just forget about them. But the fact that you not only post them, but incorporate them into your daily operations, between the core value award to the shout outs on the Slack channel, all of those things, it helps keep people invested in the core values, and it helps create that culture that you want based around those core values. So I think that's brilliant. All right. So from there, you perfect your model. So you're not even, first 10 years, you're not even thinking about expanding. So what was driving the growth of the business?
Mostly word of mouth. We didn't really advertise for the first 20 years. We weren't really advertising. It was a lot of just delivering very good customer service, and that customer service and the fun people were having was creating a lot of word of mouth. And that's the word of mouth is what was allowing the leagues to grow as they did. And we did some organic growth into a few regions just outside of Toronto in that first 20 years. But the major growth that we've had in the last few years has been through acquisitions in different regions. Okay.
Now, you mentioned briefly you took a sabbatical, and you were actually even thinking about selling the club. But instead of doing that, you doubled down and started to expand. You want to walk us through that?
Sure. Yeah. So for 10 years, I was very invested in the business. I was all in. And during that 10-year period, I had 3 children. And you know, when you run your own business, you don't get to take a maternity leave. And so by around 2006 or so, I now had 3 young children, and I was probably a bit burnt out, honestly. And I had a great team in place who were making the operations happen, and I didn't need to be around all the time. So I started to take a little more time off. I was taking my summers off, hanging out with my kids, and, you know, doing longer Christmas breaks and March breaks with the kids. And at that time, I also started a passion project. I started an adult community musical theater troupe in Toronto. It's since turned into three different troupes, and we've raised over $500,000 for charity. I've been to Africa twice with that to help with the charity we started. And that was just a fun passion project that I wanted to get into. So I was doing that and just really part-time in the business. I was probably coming in I was probably taking 16 weeks a year off and working about 20 hours a week when I was in. So fast forward, it's now around probably the year 2016 or so. And I had been torn about what my next chapter was going to be. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I spent some time really pondering what's the legacy I want to leave. And I thought to myself, what makes me happiest? And I realized what does make me happiest is honestly when I'm driving down the street at night and I see a sport and social club game going on, a football game or a soccer game or a kickball game. I can say to my kids, hey, look, there's sport and social club people playing because of what we do. It makes me feel great. And so I realized in 2016, I shouldn't try and sell the company. I should, as you say, double down and really try and grow this. That will be my next adventure. And at the time, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I wrote down 1 million people because I think around that time, we probably had around 70,000 people playing on an annual basis. And that felt amazing. We were touching a lot of lives. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool to be able to say we get 1 million people playing every year? That would just be incredible. And it'll probably take us a long time to get to that, but it's fun to have that goal to chase because what we do, the service we're providing is touching lives in such a positive way. The physical health benefits and the mental health benefits are incredible. And I know, obviously we all know going to the gym, running on a treadmill, getting a workout in, it's really great for both your physical health and your mental health. However, the human connection that you get from playing in team sports, the camaraderie that happens on the sidelines and on the field and then going out for a beer afterwards raises that up even more. I wouldn't want to offend any of your listeners by saying team sports is better, but there's definitely an element of social, especially in this day and age with so many people thinking they're being social when they're on Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat. But the truth is there's a real loss of human connection these days. And so the service we're providing is just such an incredibly feel-good service. It's so easy for me to get up every day knowing that the purpose of what we're doing is so positive.
There's so much in there that I like. Number one, I think burnout is a real thing that needs to be addressed. I think there are definitely times when it's beneficial to unplug. And I say it all the time, the better your off switch is, the better your on switch is going to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that you unplug and kind of recharge yourself, chase a passion project. But usually entrepreneurs, people like yourself, passion projects can take on a life of their own. For me, this podcast was a passion project, and now it's taken on a life of its own. So I can totally relate, but you definitely need burnout's a real thing. It needs to be addressed and prevented if possible. And you need to build in those times where you just turn it off and connect with people, connect with friends with no ulterior motive other than just to spend time with people that you like, or in the case of your family, people you don't like. But that's what the holidays are for. But so I think that's really, really important so that you don't, because I tend to go like 100% and then I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. And then I go and then I want to spend time with my wife, and my wife's like, who are you? I don't even know you. Mm-hmm. And so if I can schedule time, okay, this point of day, I have to turn it off. Okay, now I'm going to go have coffee with my wife or coffee with my buddy or whatever and turn it off. I think that's really, really important. And then the other thing that you touched on was the social aspect. And I belong to a mastermind group. I know you do as well. And we talk about our gyms becoming the third place, but I agree with you 100%. In order to be that third place, there has to be that human connection. Mm-hmm. So you have to build in some kind of social aspect to it where you're connecting people to people, not via social media. Because I know I like to strength train. I own a gym. I lift weights, all of that stuff. But I also play hockey. And I know I'm really tight with the guys that are on my hockey team. We play every Tuesday night. I do jujitsu, and I say it all the time. I can spend an hour rolling with somebody, and I can know them better than if I sat down and talked to them for 3 hours. Just by sharing that bond of competing with one another. There's a mutual respect that develops. And so all of that kind of competitiveness kind of melts away, and then you can get to people's souls, so to speak. So I think that's so important. And I think there's definitely a way to do the fitness and bring in a social aspect. I talked about another guest before we started recording that started a league for non-competitive sports for kids who either don't want to or for whatever reason aren't able to play competitive sports, but they still want to compete and they still want to be social. They still want to exercise. And so I think there's definitely a market there, and you've definitely captured that market. So going back to when you said you built a team, did you do that purposefully, or did that just happen organically?
The staff?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the club just was growing, and I needed help, to be honest. And as we kept growing, I needed more help, and we just sort of, that it happened organically. The growth was happening organically, and I was just hiring people, over probably 20 years, 18 to 20 years, to grow from myself to 15 full-time people wasn't astronomical growth. It was nice, good, strong, steady. I mean, the first 10 years was a lot bigger growth, and then it was like consistent, nice paced growth. But the real growth has happened in the last few years, and that's where we've now tripled the size since 2016 in terms of our staff, and got a lot more people playing, and that's been mostly through the acquisition, so not as organic growth.
Okay, so how did you find these people? Were they just members of the club?
We do actually get a lot of members who apply to work with us, which is awesome. It's a fantastic resource for us to get staff. But pretty traditional, honestly. Like, we do a lot of job postings through our own social media, and we also post on various sites, for jobs. We've actually had companies who have come to us because we have such a huge database, over a couple 100,000 people in our database. They'll come to us and say, we want to sponsor you so we can post job opportunities in our company to your members, because the truth is, people really want, our members are a very special demographic of people. They're typically the 18 to 35-year-olds, and they're active people. So it's a really great niche, and those active social people are great teammates for people to want to have working for them. So that was kind of a funny thing over time. We've had some people literally sponsor us just so they could reach out to our market to get employees.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a huge database. That's a huge resource. That's a huge asset that you guys can definitely benefit from. So when you talk about the social aspect and how important that is, so do you guys incorporate that into your organization? I know you organize the leagues, but do you organize social events outside? Is it like, do you say, okay, the team's going here after the game on Tuesday nights, or how does that work?
For sure. So in the very early days when I first started, actually, I used to run everything I could think of. I was really into skiing, so I'd run ski weekends, and I was really into mountain biking. I'd run mountain biking weekends. And then it became quickly everything I did was becoming work, and that became exhausting. So we sort of dialed back some of the social, so we do actually have tournaments that happen on weekends, like curling bonspiel or a volleyball tournament or a softball tournament, whatever. But we also have, which tend to be very social because you're all there together on the weekend. But then basically every night of the week, there are sponsor bars to go back to after people's games. People don't have to go, but the option is there. Well, after they're done their soccer game or their softball game, they'll grab the other team and say, let's go grab some nachos or some wings. And usually there's some kind of a deal for our members. If they go to a certain bar, maybe they'll get a free plate of nachos, or they'll get a free, a discounted pitcher of beer from one of our beer sponsors or whatever. So there's always different deals. And we have a lot of great partners actually who who give some pretty incredible benefits to our members in a lot of different ways. You know, we have like Skip the Dishes is a huge partner of ours, and Skip the Dishes is basically your meal delivery service. It's such a perfect fit. You know, you've gone to play soccer and it's 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. You finished your game. You don't want to really go home and cook. You can order up quickly from Skip the Dishes, and your food will be there when you get home. And Skip the Dishes gives great deals to our members because they're a member of ours. They get extra benefits from Skip the Dishes. And we have a lot of partners like Monster, as I was saying to you. I see you drinking your Monster. Monster's a partner of ours. They do a fantastic job treating our special captains to making our captains really be VIPs, recognizing them as the beasts because it's the captains who recruit the people and get people signed up to play. They truly are a special gem out there. And then, you know, anyway, a huge variety of awesome partners that are always delivering great perks for our members, which is really special.
Well, again, I think that's really important because that really indoctrinates people into your club. When you join, you say, hey, by joining us, not only do you get the benefits of what we offer you, but you get the benefits of XYZ from our partners. So, because we're working on that, we call it our play span partners, because our mission is to improve our clients' play span, the amount of time that they can play at anything, whatever it is that they want to play at. And so we have play span partners like chiropractors, massage therapists, things like that. And so when a member joins, we give them the kind of a welcome package that has all the lists of everything they get. So I think that's really, really important. So did they come after these partnerships? Did they come after you? You come after them? How does that work?
Both. We have a director of corporate partnerships, and he's our liaison who creates all the fantastic, he's really super creative. And so he can create really fantastic opportunities for any of our partners. It's not like you just get your logo somewhere and that's all we do. Like he creates these, he works with our partners to help meet their needs. Some people really want to, you know, have their product sampled and tasted. Some partners, they want people to walk through their doors and shop, or they just want to introduce something new, you know, tell them about a new opportunity. Like every partner has a different need. And so our corporate partnership director is fantastic at listening to what those needs are and figuring out a way to work with them to deliver that to our members.
Yeah, I think that's key. It's got to be a win-win situation.
Yeah, sure.
Win for you, win for your partners, win for your members.
That's exactly, it's like you've been listening into my office. I say that all the time. Every partnership has to be a triple win. Yeah,
absolutely. All right. And then, so take us to 2016. So you made the decision again that you're going to go all in instead of stepping back. You're going to go all in and try to really expand and grow this thing. So take us through that process.
So yeah, I approached my partners, Raul and Rob, and said, you know, I'm excited to grow the company. I'd like to get 1 million people playing. Don't ask me how we're going to do this, but just tell me if you buy into the vision of this. And they thankfully both did. Thought I was a little bit crazy, I'm sure, but they were like, okay, let's do it. So that's when we proceeded to start to figure out how are we going to do this. So we started off we implemented EOS, which is the Entrepreneur Operating System, into our business, which is a lot of just getting proper metrics in place, making sure you got the right people in the right seats, creating a vision, making sure you have values, and having a proper meeting pulse, like regular check-ins with the right people at the right times. So it started with that. That was sort of the main foundation. And then we started to invest in our growth, which meant spending money on some positions. Hired a CFO, had never, you know, that was a bit of a, oh my God, here we go. Like we're spending a lot of money to really try and grow because I believe in what we're doing. And then starting to build out a team to have as I say, the right people in the right seats to manage the growth that was about to come. I also had to spend a lot of time figuring out how we were going to grow I looked at organic growth, franchising, and mergers and acquisitions. And for a variety of reasons, settled on mergers and acquisitions probably being the best way of growing quickly. But the words mergers and acquisitions actually made me feel nauseous. I did a commerce degree, as I said earlier, but I think I fell asleep during the finance portion of that program. And so the thought of doing a merger and acquisition, I was like, I don't even know what that means. So I basically spent a year asking people much smarter than me to meet me for coffee or breakfast or lunch or drink after work, and ask people to explain to me, how does this work? Why would this strategy work? How do I do it, etc. So learned a lot about it. And then I just started working on, just started trying it. And I started really small. As I said, we've done 8 acquisitions. Actually, none of them were for sale when I approached them. It was all me reaching out and saying, this is what I'm doing. We're a big organization. We're expanding. We'd love to, where are you at with your business? Would you be interested in selling? And just feeling people out. I've had a lot of people interested and a lot of people not interested. And then some, as I say, some have been partnership opportunities and some have been full acquisitions. And that's how we intend to continue doing that.
Okay. And then, so say I have a sport and social club. And how do you identify, how do you find me? How do you identify me? How do you decide that I'm a person that you want to approach with mergers and acquisitions? And before I even say that, I have to give you props, because you talked about how when you were at university, you struggled with your marks because you were an entrepreneur. And then I also heard you say you got into MIT, an MIT program. So that's no small feat.
Well, it's the Entrepreneur Master's program run out of the MIT campus. It's not I am not an MIT graduate. Do not speak that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty street smart. And I'm actually, you know what? Yes, I did well in high school. I was a 90s student, even with all my skew racing. At university, I was a 60s student because I didn't really care about my marks. I really cared about the businesses I was running while I was at university. That was more fun to me, real life. I'm more of a real life, hands-on person. Having said that, I'm constantly reading books. We run a book club at my office every 2 months. We have a staff book club, but I'm reading books all the time to learn. I read personal books for like my own personal growth, usually some kind of Buddhist reading in the morning. Mm-hmm. I read a business book. I always have a business book on the go. And then I have a novel or a biography on my bedside table for bedtime. So constantly, I am a big believer in learning. I do believe if you're not growing, you're dying. So, so yes, thank you. But don't mistake, I'm not an MIT graduate.
Okay, gotcha. But it's still impressive to me. And it's funny that you say you run a book club. I literally just started a book club at my business. Our first meeting is this Friday.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So back to the question is like, how do you find me, identify that I'm one that you might want to acquire, and how do you approach me?
So there are a ton of organizations like ours all over the world, frankly. And there's this wonderful thing called Google, which allows for a lot of research. Having said that, I am also a member of the Sport and Social Industry Association, which has a lot of clubs, 60-some clubs like ours from across North America are in the association, and I happen to sit on the board of directors, or the executive board for this association. So I meet a lot of clubs through that, but to be honest, I think actually of all the acquisitions we've done, only one of them has been a Sport and Social Industry Association club. It's more just me researching, like, where's a market we're interested in? Let's reach out. And I've had a lot of people kind of go, nope, not interested. I've had a lot of people say, really interested, let's talk more. And when I talk more, either they become less interested or I become less interested, or we both become more interested. So it's just been, I've talked to a lot of people over the last few years, and there's still lots more for me to talk to, and we want to pick the right partners. I've also had deals come across my desk that I look at and I'm just like, nope, not the right fit. There are a lot of people who I wouldn't want as a partner because I don't like the way they do business. They wouldn't necessarily, the way their values, I don't think necessarily fit with our values. And so I don't think it would be a strong, healthy partnership. I don't want to go into any market and I'm not interested in putting anyone out of business. I'm not interested in squishing anybody. Like that's not my MO. It's more about finding really good partners who share my values, share our values rather, and believe in the vision of what we're trying to do and would like the support of a strong team like ours to help them become bigger and get more people playing.
That's a great point. So you said that you systemize everything and you've built your own platform. So if I decide to come on board with you, what do I get?
So yeah, our platform is really powerful. There's some SaaS platforms out there for league operations. We've actually tried some because in doing some acquisitions, some of the clubs we've acquired have been on these SaaS platforms that I was actually kind of intrigued. If they were really strong platforms, maybe we could stop having a development team and just, save ourselves that extra headache. But what we've really learned is our platform is incredibly powerful in testing out other platforms. Our platform has so much power to it. It's unbelievable. And so the platform is definitely part of it. But then in addition, any of our partners, some clubs we acquire will be a full acquisition and it's just it's a sale and then they're moving on and we're just integrating that organization right into ours. But anybody who would come on in terms of if we were to partner with someone, it's the network it's a support team of 45 other people. There's the finance and finance and HR and marketing and customer service and operations. It's the strategic side of things, our strategic leadership team who are doing the growing strategy. And then all the system, we have systems for everything. So it's, a new partner, you need to hire someone. Okay. Let us help you with that. We'll make that role really quickly. We have the documents for how to interview. We have the job postings already done. There's just,
it's like a franchise.
It kind of is. And yet it's like, I don't want to franchise. I would rather have partners who they're going to benefit and we're going to benefit by working together to a common goal.
Yeah, you guys are both working toward the same thing.
Exactly.
So when you say platform, is so powerful and unique. And I think anything that you build and customize yourself is going to be that way versus one that you try to fit kind of the round peg in the square hole kind of deal is what you find a lot out there because there's a lot of cookie cutter programs out there. So when you say platform, what do you mean specifically? Like how they organize the leagues, how you sign up, how you pay?
Yeah. So our platform, we call it the TEAM system. It stands for Total Enrollment and Management. Happens to be a great acronym because it sports teams, obviously. So our TEAM system allows our members for the user interface. They register. They can see all the programs that are offered, the various cities that they're offered in. They can register online, pay online. They can sign up by themselves or as a small group or as a full team. They can, through the platform, then they would get, they would fill their roster. The roster is automated. If they've played with us before, it's just a simple click to create the same roster again. It's just really easy. The schedules are all online. Their standings are online. They can record their scores through their phone and they can keep track of the score during their game from their phone. And then as soon as it's done, just submit it and it populates to the standings right away. The captain of the team has an attendance tool that is they can opt in for. So if they opt in as a captain, an email automatically gets sent out to all their roster 2 days. I'm not exactly sure, but it's 2 days before their game, and their teammates would then click on yes, I'm coming, or no, I'm not coming, or I'm a maybe, whatever. And then the captain gets a quick report telling them how many people they're going to have. And if they're short, if they know they're going to be short people, there's an option to use what we call our sub finder. And anyone in our cities that we play in can sign up to be a sub. They can specify, I want a sub for any soccer game any night of the week, or I want a sub for any sport on Tuesday nights or whatever. And so then the captains, if they need people, they can click on send out a sub request, and it automatically goes out to all the people who have signed up to be a sub for that sport or that night. So what happens is we have less defaults happening because we're helping service our members by making sure they get substitutes to help fill the roster every night, because people want to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And defaults really suck for everybody. So that's a great service that our platform does. So that's kind of the front end user experience. There's probably more that I'm not thinking of. There's like the event coordinator. They can see who the game coordinator is going to be. There's a picture of who the part-time employee is that's actually going to be at their game that night. So if they need help, they know who to look for. There's maps of where their games are, locations, the schedules, as well as where's the closest sponsor bar to my game after the game, all right on their schedule. It's right on the platform, and it's all mobile friendly. And then on the back end for our administrative team, for our staff, it's a huge scheduling tool. That's where most of the sports registration league registration platforms out there don't have a very powerful scheduling tool. Ours is incredibly powerful. It manages all our venues. I mean, we're in hundreds of facilities a night, and so it's all you. When our team is doing up a schedule, creating a schedule, the tool will not allow you to double book a gym. It's like all that kind of stuff is cross-referenced, and all the schedules are already pre-balanced. So we really care about our customer experience. So you don't want one team always having to play at 11 o'clock at night or always having to play at 6 o'clock at night. So the schedule templates in the system are pre-balanced. So everyone gets the same number of 6 o'clock games, same number of 7 o'clock. That's the kind of thing that we've really thought through in building this platform. And it manages, we have a lot of insights into our members, what sports they played, like how long they played with us, the retention of our members, etc. It goes on and on. It's a hugely powerful platform. And you're right, we built it for ourselves. And so it's very powerful for our needs.
Yeah. And I can I haven't developed a program, but I know that took not only a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of hair pulling, but also a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah, it's been
to pay those programmers. Yeah, and keep writing that code and everything. So, and it's a lot better than what we do. I know with my Tuesday night men's hockey team, the captain sends out a group text of who's in, and then if we don't have enough, then we're scrambling. I mean, like last Tuesday, we were the first place team. We played the last place team. We had 5 guys, and we lost because we just didn't have enough guys. And so that's frustrating. So I think the way you describe that platform is and then we always complain because, one session we may get all the late games. Next session, we may get all the early games. And it's just kind of hit and miss. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So for all of those reasons that you described, I would definitely like to have that platform in my men's hockey league.
That's why we refer to ourselves as the big leagues of recreational sports, is because that platform we are just so professionally organized with how we operate our grassroots sports. It may be just beer league hockey, but we still really care about our beer league players' experience. It's really important to us that they don't play all the 6 o'clock games, right? Or that they don't have to default. So, because that ruins it for everybody, not just them, for the other team too. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So this is great. And I think it's great because it to me, it speaks volumes to the gap in the marketplace that people aren't hitting, and you're nailing it. You're crushing it. So kudos to you. And I think there is definitely an opportunity there. I know if I ran a sports league, I would definitely want to know you. So I always like to wrap up with some questions, and not gotcha questions, but it's my favorite part of the podcast because we kind of deviate from the script a little bit and we learn a little bit more about you, kind of get a peek behind the curtain a little bit.
Uh-oh.
So what I ask all of my guests is what, and I think I have an idea, but I want to hear from you. What has been your most successful failure? And what I mean by that, at the time, it seemed like a devastating failure, loss that you weren't going to be able to recover from, but you were able to take life lessons from it and use that information to propel you to greater success down the road.
I would say, honestly, probably in my university career, I ran a college pro painters franchise. So I ran a painting business for 3 summers. In my very first summer, I had half of my painters quit in July. So they'd painted for May and June, and they should have been painting May, June, July, August. Half of them quit at the beginning of July. So I had to stop production. I had to find new painters. I had to retrain them and then pick back up again. And it really slowed me down. And I had to really stop and pause and think, what is going on here? Why did I just have half my painters quit? And I looked at myself and I realized it was because I was acting like a dictator. I was not being very caring to my team of employees. And I sat down, my dad was an entrepreneur, and I remember sitting down with him, and he impressed upon me how important it is to care for your team, to care for your staff. These are the people who make it happen day in and day out. And so I did a complete 180 change as to how I treated my team then. And I built a really healthy culture within this group. The painters who were with me for the second half of that summer actually were with me for another 2 summers after that. And I ended up winning the top manager of the year award in Canada for the next 2 years after that as well. And I think in large part, it taught me a huge lesson about how important, if you're going to run your own business, the people who are going to be on your team with you are crucial. You want to have the right people on your team, but you also have to treat them with extreme respect and care, and as you would want to be treated, which is why one of our core values is like treat everyone like your best friend. It's I think that would be the biggest lesson probably that's really helped me in business.
I think that's a great story because I've only been in business. I've only had my training studio 5 years. I've been training for 30, but been in business for 5. And when I started out, I had the exact same thing. I ran my business like a dictator. It's my business. It's going to go the way I want it to go. You do what I say or hit the door.
Yeah.
And people don't want to work for a person like that. So I had to do some self-exploration, and I had to do some work on myself to become a better leader if I was going to have a better team. So what are some of the things that you changed that helped you turn it around?
Well, back then, I remember I started, I would stop by their job sites. I'd bring them popsicles. It was hot. And I would just be thoughtful to them. I'd bring them pop. And I would have I did a social night once a week, and I'd cook burgers. And it didn't cost a lot. It was just me being a more thoughtful, caring person, and less of a dictator and a little more of a partner in crime. We were working together. I also shared my vision with them. Actually, then I remember I did talk to them about my goals, and I put in a bonus plan in place to sort of, if they hit certain targets, then they would get bonus. And so, but we were all driving towards a common vision, which is huge. And that's why I do a new vision every 3 years here at Sport and Social Group. I'm about to launch our vision for 2022 because I think it's really important everyone sees where is it that we're trying to head here? Where are we all going? Because any road will get you there if you don't have a map. But if you have a map, you're all, rowing in the same boat towards the same destination together. And so having a vision and sharing that, I think was really valuable as well.
That's solid gold right there. That's worth the listen right there. So, and then my next question is, in your time in this industry, in the sport and social club industry, what has been the biggest surprise that you've had to deal with that you did not see coming?
Oh my gosh.
Out of the million surprises you've had to deal with.
Yeah. Gosh, every other day something happens. Mm-hmm. The life of an entrepreneur. Yes. I don't know. That's a tough one. Nothing's coming to me off the top of my head.
The best stories, the love stories. I don't think you talk about that.
The love stories. We have great. Maddie's just suggesting to me we have great love stories that happen, but I'm not sure that's a surprise necessarily. I don't know, Jim. Sorry, I'm at a bit of a loss with that one.
That's okay. We can circle back to it, or we can skip it either way. Like I said, I have full editing ability.
Okay.
But so no worries there. So my last question, you kind of touched on it earlier, and I'm big on this. Where do you go for your self-development, personal and professional development? What books do you read, podcasts, seminars, mastermind groups?
Great question. So I would say after, I didn't used to do a ton of self-development. After my divorce in 2013, started to do a lot more. I started to do a lot of yoga, started to do a lot of meditation. And I've started to read a lot of Buddhist books in the morning. I just sort of, through the Entrepreneur Masters program I did, I got a lot of insights into great ways to start your day. I've always worked out, whether it be playing team sports or playing tennis or doing yoga or going for a run or riding my bike, whatever. I mean, I'm active, which I think is hugely beneficial. But then it's been an assortment of business groups. So I'm a member of Mastermind Talks run by Jason Gaynard. I was in EO, the Entrepreneur Organization, for a few years, and I did the Entrepreneur Masters program. And I think just a lot of self-reading and growth that way, both through business and personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way. When I went through my divorce, I also found meditation. I didn't find yoga because I'm a big muscular dude, and it's just like oil and water. Even though I'm a goalie and I'm supposed to be flexible, I am pretty flexible for a big guy. But anyway, so I found meditation, and it was life-changing. I thought, man, what is like sitting quietly going to do for me?
Yeah.
But then what I found is that it allowed me to choose the stimuli that I react to.
Yes.
And it helped me become more proactive about my day and my life than reactive.
Exactly.
And like set goals for the day, set priorities for the day, and just focus on that so I can let the little fires kind of burn out on their own instead of going around like a madman stomping out every fire that I see. So it's been really life-changing for me, and I can't recommend it enough. But when you talk about books, like what are some of I know you read a lot. What are the last 3 books that you read, and what did you get out of them?
Gosh, I read a lot of Pema Chodron in terms of Buddhist reading. I'm actually reading right now The Four Agreements, which is pretty interesting. That's sort of my morning reading. I've read the autobiography of a yogi. Dan Harris's book, Meditation for what is it? How is that? I forget what it's called. Dan Harris's book. He's actually got 2. One's Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics or something, and the other one is 10% Happier. That was a great read. And then business books. My brother's actually an author, and he's written some fantastic business books. Double Double. His name Cameron Herold. So Double Double, Vivid Vision, Meetings Suck. Those have all been great business books as well. I've got my bookshelf here. I don't know. I've got so many.
So going back to your brother's books, like Double Double and Meetings Suck, what did you get out of those, or what are they about?
That was just a free pitch for my brother.
I figured. But, if they're good books, they're good books.
No, they were actually great books. Meetings Suck. What was really powerful about Meetings Suck is anyone who has a team should read Meetings Suck, because it's all about recognizing meetings need to start and finish on time. You should plan them to be shorter than you need, because if you the time will get filled up if you have the time sitting there, and often needlessly. You need to have an agenda, and everything should have a time allotment to that agenda. And one of the most powerful things I got from the book is if you add up the salaries sitting at the table, figure out their hourly rate, how much is that meeting costing your business? You better make damn sure you're getting that much value out of each meeting. And if you're not, then perhaps you have too many people at the meeting. And if you're not either adding value or getting value, you shouldn't be at the meeting. So there's a lot of great little takeaways, I thought, from that book. That was a book we read with my whole team a couple years ago for one of our book clubs. Honestly, I can't even. Unfortunately, I have a horrible memory. I can't think. I'm reading Onward right now by Howard Schultz, the Starbucks book.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic. I'm learning a ton. I'm making a ton of notes. We just read Never Split the Difference, a book about negotiation.
I love that book by the FBI negotiator.
Yeah, yes. By Boss. That was a really good book.
Yeah.
Got a lot of value out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Scudamore's book, WTF, Willing to Fail, I thought was just a super fun read. It happens to be somewhat personal because my brother was his COO at 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Oh, yeah. My brother-in-law owns the franchise here.
Oh, is that right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, you'd love the book then. So it's called
Okay.
WTF by Brian Scudamore.
Okay.
I've read honestly so many different books. Like I'm on Goodreads, and are you on Goodreads?
No.
Oh, it's a great app. You can keep track of all the books you read, the books you want to read, and then other people. It's kind of like a social channel in that you can see what your friends are reading, and if you connect with someone like they like certain types of books that you seem to like, you can see what else they've read that they've rated high or whatever, and helps you pick good books. But I seem to have the books on my bedside table, the pile just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Amazon is a serious problem for that. Someone will say, oh, you should read blah, blah, blah. And then I've bought myself another book. I can't keep up.
Yeah, that's great though. Always learning.
Absolutely.
Either you're learning or you're dying. I like that. All right. So where in the world can people connect with you, contact you, say if they have a sports league that they want to bring it under your umbrella, or just find more information about you?
So I guess LinkedIn, and my email. You can give out my email if you'd like. Pretty easygoing. However, whatever works. Facebook, Instagram, I'm on it all.
Okay. And then all of those links will be in the show notes. So if you go to trainerjim.net and click on this episode of the podcast, all the links to contact Kristi will be in the links. Kristi, this has been awesome.
Thanks for having me. I'm really fun.
Yeah, this has been great. I really have enjoyed it. Learned a lot, learned a ton. And I know you're super busy. You're running a big organization, but I would like to stay in contact and reserve the right to have you on again sometime.
Awesome. I would appreciate that. And let's make sure we all focus on getting people to keep playing, whatever it is that they're doing out there, whether, it's so important for all of our physical and mental health. Keep playing.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks, Kristi. Well, have a good day.
Thanks, Jim. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.